Francisco Goya is one of the most influential artists in history. Known as the last of the old masters and the first of the moderns, his work captured the complexities of his time, from the elegance of the Spanish court to the horrors of war. His paintings, drawings, and etchings pushed artistic boundaries, blending beauty with brutal realism. But who was Francisco Goya? How did his personal struggles and historical events shape his art? Let's dive into the life and legacy of this legendary Spanish painter. Early life and training. Francisco José de Goya y Lucientes was born on March 30th, 1746 in Fuendetodos, Spain. His family later moved to Zaragoza, where he began his artistic training. As a teenager, Goya studied under José Luzán, a local artist, before traveling to Madrid to further his education. In Madrid, he worked with the court painter Francisco Balleu, whose connections helped him gain commissions. Seeking further experience, Goya traveled to Italy in 1770, studying Renaissance art and developing his skills. Upon returning to Spain, he earned a reputation for his masterful use of color and light. Despite his early struggles, Goya's ambition and talent pushed him forward. He entered several painting competitions in his youth, though he initially faced rejection. However, his persistence paid off, and he gradually established himself as one of Spain's most promising artists. Rise to fame, Goya's talent quickly gained recognition. In 1774, he was commissioned to create designs for the Royal Tapestry Factory, producing scenes of everyday Spanish life. These works, filled with charm and detail, impressed the Spanish royal court. By the 1780s, Goya had become one of Spain's leading artists. He painted portraits of nobles, intellectuals, and the royal family, earning him the position of court painter to King Charles III. When Charles IV became king in 1789, Goya was promoted to first court painter, a prestigious role that secured his place among Spain's elite. His royal portraits, such as Charles IV of Spain and his family, were highly detailed but also subtly critical. Unlike other court painters who idealized their subjects, Goya depicted them with stark realism, revealing their imperfections and personality traits. This ability to blend flattery with psychological depth made his portraits unique and unforgettable. Goya's darker vision. Despite his success, Goya's work began to take a darker turn. In 1793, he suffered a mysterious illness that left him permanently deaf. This physical setback deeply affected him, leading to a more introspective and critical approach to art. His later works moved away from the polished elegance of his early career. Instead, he began portraying the raw realities of Spanish society, exposing corruption, superstition, and suffering. His Los Caprichos series, a collection of satirical etchings published in 1799, mocked the aristocracy, the church, and human folly, showcasing his growing disillusionment. Unlike his earlier works, which celebrated the vibrancy of Spanish life, these prints were filled with grotesque characters and eerie symbolism. One of the most famous images from this series, The Sleep of Reason Produces Monsters, reflects Goya's belief that ignorance and irrationality lead to chaos. The horrors of war. The early 19th century was a turbulent time for Spain. In 1808, Napoleon's forces invaded, leading to the brutal Peninsular War. Goya, deeply affected by the violence, created one of his most powerful series, The Disasters of War. These etchings depicted the atrocities committed by both French and Spanish forces, offering a haunting look at the horrors of conflict. One of his most famous paintings, The 3rd of May, 1808-1814, captures the brutal execution of Spanish rebels by French soldiers. The stark contrast between light and shadow, along with the raw emotion on the victims' faces, makes this work one of the most striking anti-war paintings in history. Unlike traditional historical paintings that glorified war, Goya's work focused on its brutality. He refused to portray heroic soldiers or grand battle scenes, instead showing the suffering of ordinary people caught in the chaos. As Goya aged, his work became even more intense. After the war, he withdrew from public life, isolating himself in a farmhouse called Quinta del Sordo, House of the Deaf Man. There, between 1819 and 1823, he created a series of nightmarish paintings directly on the walls of his home. Known as the Black Paintings, these works are some of the most disturbing in art history, featuring grotesque imagery, violent scenes, and haunting expressions. They reveal Goya's deepest fears and pessimism about humanity. Among them, Saturn devouring his son stands out as a terrifying depiction of madness and destruction. These paintings were never meant to be displayed publicly. They were deeply personal, reflecting Goya's inner turmoil and disillusionment with the world. The themes of death, madness, and despair dominate these works, making them some of the most psychologically intense pieces ever created. Exile and final years' political turmoil in Spain forced Goya to leave his homeland. In 1824, he moved to Bordeaux, France, where he continued to paint and draw despite his declining health. Even in exile, he remained innovative, experimenting with new techniques and subjects. During this time, he created his lithographs of the bulls, which showcased his continued fascination with movement and drama. Even in his old age, Goya remained a restless and experimental artist, always pushing the boundaries of his craft. Despite his physical decline, Goya continued to work until his final days. He died on April 16, 1828, at the age of 82. Though he passed away far from Spain, his legacy remained deeply rooted in Spanish culture. Goya's legacy. Francisco Goya's impact on art is immeasurable. His ability to capture both the beauty and brutality of life set him apart from his contemporaries. He inspired generations of artists, including the Romantics, Impressionists, and even modern Expressionists. Goya's ability to blend realism with psychological depth influenced artists such as Edouard Manet, Pablo Picasso, and even the surrealists of the 20th century. His work remains a bridge between the classical traditions of the past and the modern artistic movements that followed. Today, his works are displayed in some of the world's greatest museums, including the Prado Museum in Madrid. His fearless approach to art continues to resonate, reminding us that true artists do not just create, they challenge, expose, and revolutionize. Beyond the art world, Goya's influence extends into literature, film, and culture. His haunting imagery and social criticism have been referenced in countless works, proving that his impact goes beyond painting. His art remains as relevant today as it was in his time, speaking to universal themes of power, suffering, and resilience. Francisco Goya was more than just a painter. He was a visionary who reshaped art forever. His ability to capture both grandeur and horror made him one of the most complex and influential artists in history. Which of Goya's works fascinates you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more artistic explorations.